Hey guys, so what we're going to talk about today is how to interpret a histogram. A histogram is just another type of graph to display certain type of data, specifically numerical data, and it's in usually grouped at the bottom, if you notice, in intervals, and all of the bars are touching, and each of the axis is labeled by a of certain type of title to tell us what we're actually looking at. So it's important to analyze that first before you start interpreting it. So let's just look at the types of histograms we have. In the first part of the notes, you'll notice when graphs are there are three different types of histograms that are displayed. The first one looks like this. It's kind of got a mound going on. So we consider that a symmetrical graph, and it says when graphs create a mound shape, data is concentrated toward the middle, or the median or the mean of the data. That's considered symmetrical. Now, if you draw this, if you notice, if we kind of draw a loop, this is got a tail here on the left-hand side. And that's why we call this skewed left, because that's telling us this data over here is throwing the mound of data off. So we consider that skewed left. Not that you should erase that, but that's why it's skewed, because that data to the left is throwing it off. And then we have this is skewed right because our tail is over here to the right. So these are the three types of shapes of a graph. You're going to see this a lot more next year in algebra, but just know that those are the types that we're going to look at. Today, we're going to be pretty much looking at all of symmetric graphs. So before we can go on, we're going to look at how to interpret a histogram. Let's just look at what it actually means. So if you look here, it gives us a title, and it's telling us threatened species of mammals in Europe, okay? And then over here, it tells us how many countries in Europe represent the y-axis. And then down here, the x-axis is just telling us the number of threatened species. So if you were to say, okay, there are 10 species on countries that have between 10 and 14 threatened species. So that's how you would use it. Now, can you tell me how many there are? Like, can you say how many countries have say 11 threatened species? And the answer is no, because this is grouped in an interval. So we really can't tell the exact data, but we can say we can only see a range in which that data is representing. Okay, so let's look at this first one. So the first one's asking us how many countries are represented in this histogram. So what we're really doing is we're just adding up the top of each of these. Now, for this one, I'm going to say this is 7. Even though you might think it's 6, let's just all be on the same page. The height of this one's about 19. The height of this one is on the line, so I'm going to say 10. The height of this one's in between, so I'm going to say 5 because it goes all the way over here to 5. And then this one would be 1 because it's the height between 0 and 2. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to add those up in your calculator, and you should get 42. So we know there are 42 countries represented in this histogram from Europe. Now, which interval has the most amount of countries? Now, we know 19 is the biggest number of countries, so the interval that represents that would be 5 to 9. So anytime they say interval, you actually have to put that notation down. All right, which interval has the least amount of countries? So you look for the one with the lowest number, which is over here at 1. So that would be 20 to 24. And now they want to know what size are the intervals used on the horizontal axis. So most of you think 0 to 4 is 4 numbers, but it's actually not. It's incorporating the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many numbers did I just list there? I listed 5 numbers. So the size of this interval is 5 because it's telling us how many threatened species there are in each. And if you do that for each one, like the next one, 5 to 9, if you start with 5 and list up to 9, you're going to see there are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are another 5 data that we can collect for that interval. So that's really important that you know how to write the size of an interval just to be understood. And usually they're between 5 and 10. They're going to usually go in increments of 5 and 10. All right. So pause the video and rewind it and get that information down if you don't have it down already. And let's move on to the next page or next couple. So the next one says here, how many countries have at most 9 threatened species? So that means 9 or less. So we're going to look at the threatened species here. That's this axis. So we're going to go for 9 or less. So we're going to total up these two heights. And that we would say would be 26 countries had at most 9 threatened species. Now the next one's asking us how many countries have at least 15 threatened species. So what does that mean? 15, at least 15. Right, 15 or more. So that's talking about this information. So we said before this was 5 and this was 1. So if you add those up, that would be 6. Now number 7 says how many countries have at most 14 threatened species. So at most again means 14 or less. So it would be all of these over here. I'm going to just erase this. It's getting messy. So 14 or less, which would be the height of this, which is 7, plus 19, which we said was 26 before, plus another 10. So that would be 36 countries. Okay? And then the last one says how many countries have at least 5 threatened species. So that would be adding up the total of from here on to the end. So then we're going to add 19 and 10, which is 29, plus another 5, which is 34, plus 1, which is 35. So really, that's what we're going to be doing today is being able to read the different questions, figure out what part of the graph it's associating with, and then answer the question. All right, pause the video and get this down. We're going to move on to the last couple. All right, so on to the next page. So here on this next page, it says, can you tell whether any of the countries have 0 threatened species? Explain your reasoning. Well, I know there are 7 countries that have between 0 and 4 threatened species, but can we exactly say that there's at least one country with 0? And the answer is no. We can maybe speculate that there is, but you can't specifically state that there are 0 countries that are have threatened species because we don't have exact data. So you say no because it's an interval and not exact data. If we had data beforehand that we organized into this histogram, then yes, but we have no hard evidence. All we know is that there's 7 countries between 0 and 4. All 7 could have four threatened species. We don't know, but you can't tell exactly if any of them have 0. So we're going to say no because it's an interval and not exact data. Now, I can't really write very well on this, so I apologize. So that's it. All right, so which interval contains the median number? So generally speaking, the median's in the middle, but because this one's a little bit over to the left, the median's going to be here between 5 and 9. And why is that? Because in the beginning of the video, we said that there were 42 countries. Now, where's the middle of 42? It's about 21. So where would be the 21st piece of data? Well, we have 7 countries represented here and 19 countries represented here. And all together, that's 26 countries. So 21 is going to fall in here because it goes 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. We would reach 21 in that interval. So usually when we're figuring out which interval contains the median, we really count up from left to right. And I said before that this would be symmetric, and I lied. I apologize. This is not. This is actually a graph that's skewed right because the cluster is over here on the left. So we are going to say this is skewed right because the cluster of data is on the left. And I can't write the because, but you can. All right, now I'm going to have you guys try one on your own. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the next video. I'm sorry, not on the next, what the heck? On the next slide, it said, now that you've learned about histograms, please open up the Google slide that was shared and follow the instructions on how to complete the classwork. So I have a whole bunch of stuff, not bunch of stuff. I have a Google slide there for you to follow. Please complete that and send it back to me. Okay. And all the instructions on how to do that are on the Google slide. So follow that. If you have any questions, just email me. All right. Good luck.